Can HBAR catch up with the rest of the market? Let's discuss. So hey everyone, welcome back to Upside Down Data. Today I want to talk about whether or not HBAR can start to catch up with the rest of the altcoin market. I think a lot of people have been looking at the markets. You see some other altcoins really popping off like crazy. Ones like Link, like ones like Sol, for example. But then with HBAR, it's been a little bit slower to move. Not that it hasn't moved. It's currently up at around 26-27% move up off of these local lows, but again, not as extreme as some of those other assets. And also, if you just draw a few trend lines from these prior tops, so if you do it from wick to wick, or if you do it from the close through the close, you can see that HBAR is not really broken out yet. It's still getting stuck behind this close trend line, and it's not even close to this wick trend line just yet. So is it time to despair and to think that HBAR is never going to go anywhere? Let's talk about it. I think it's a bit premature to say that. So in some ways, whether or not HBAR explodes immediately or takes some time, in some ways that doesn't really matter all that much if someone has a long-term time horizon. Does it really matter if it's the leader or if it's a follower, if it ultimately will put in some nice multiples? One of the things that I wanted to mention here with HBAR is that it lagging behind the market this is not the first time that it's done that. We just go ahead and show here the Bitcoin price overlaid on top of HBAR's price here. You can see that the last time that we went on that big parabolic move, now I'm not arguing we're at this stage in the market where Bitcoin's about to do this and the rest of the altcoin market's going to explode. But just as an example, though, this time when Bitcoin went on a crazy run, it took HBAR several months after the beginning of that Bitcoin move to the end for HBAR to make its move all the way up. So it's not crazy to see HBAR lagging behind. Now, you wouldn't like to see it lagging behind forever. At some point, you'd like to see it catch a bid, but it's not even unexpected for HBAR to do that. It has done in the past. Shouldn't be a shock if it does that again. And so I think what might matter more, at least for this local move, is does it last long enough for the money to really flow down through into all these other alts? That as Bitcoin has moved up and Ethereum has moved up, now Solana has moved up, some of the other larger cap assets, does this bullish sentiment stick around long enough that people would take some profits off of those and then have it find its way into an asset like HBAR? And it could be that if you see HBAR suddenly start to break out of some of those, for example, diagonal resistances, then maybe that'll set it up to be able to continue out to the upside. People might look at it as being a nice entry point. So that's some short-term things. But if we zoom out a bit, we can get a broader picture on HBAR beyond just what this short-term price action is looking like. So I like to look at our different models to think about the longer term prospects for different assets. So this is our momentum bias indicator for HBAR. It's available at our website, polaritydigital.io. Link is in the description. And so basically what this indicator is doing is it's looking at which direction is momentum prevailing in. Is the momentum biased to the upside, and that would be this above zero line here, or is it biased to the downside, which would be this below zero here? And what you see with the MBI is very telltale behaviors in different parts of the market cycle. In bull markets, you spend a lot of time in the green, not even coming back down to this zero level, or if you are just dipping below it and then moving back up quickly, spending a lot more time in the green than the red. Bear markets are the opposite. Spend a lot more time in the red than in the green, and you'll have these occasional attempts to reestablish positive momentum bias. This shows up on the MBI charts for basically everything you look at. You look at Bitcoin, you look at Ethereum, you look at Solana, you look at Link. They all look the same. Different parts of the market cycle are characterized by these different types of behavior. And so then when we look at what we've been doing right now, it's showing a pretty telltale sign of this transition out of a bear market into a potential new bull market. That's what you see when you see it reestablishing positive momentum, then dipping down, then dipping up, then dipping down, then dipping up. This oscillation around zero. This is what you'll see in every asset you go and look at in that transition period. And the reason is that the output of the MBI is a Z-score. So zero is the average, and then it's denominated in standard deviations, the values above and below. And so with HBAR, the overall momentum has been positive. So that means that if it's just putting in average momentum bias, that actually would mean a overall average move to the upside, or overall average positive momentum. So we set, for example, here we set in our low so far for the bear market back here in December, and we've now been moving up, coming down, setting a higher low, so on and so forth. And so generally speaking, oscillating around zero is a bullish sign that might be setting us up for something that looks more like this eventually down the line. So long term, this is acting exactly the way you like to see HBAR to be acting in that kind of transitory or transitionary period. And we're now at a period of positive momentum bias, which might suggest that until we really see this roll over aggressively, you might think that positive momentum is more likely to prevail than negative, and that could help pull price up further along. It just could be that HBAR is going to take longer to do that. That doesn't mean it's going to put in as impressive of a move as something like Solana or something like Link, but it wouldn't surprise me if HBAR were to go ahead and put in a further move from here. That would not be surprising. Not financial advice. You should make your own opinions, make your own evaluations of the data, but that, for me personally, would not surprise me. So another model that I like to look at when I want to think about a more kind of medium to long-term prospects for an asset is our forecast model. That's what I'm showing you here. So this is basically the probability of upside for the asset, in this case HBAR, 6 months in the future. So the likelihood that the price of HBAR will be above where it is right now 6 months in the future. And what you'll notice with the forecast model is it tends to kind of get up into this elevated bullish standing during these periods that lean into these really bullish points. And then you note that as we went into our all-time high back here in September of 2021, look at what happened to the forecast model. It was going way, way down. And in fact, by the time we were up at these highs in the bull market, it was actually saying that there was only about an 8% chance of upside 6 months in the future. Indeed, we had the really nasty bear market, then started to get bullish right around when we here set in our low for the bear market back here in December. And now we are moving back up. It has gotten more to a bullish footing. And so it wouldn't surprise me then if this bullish momentum can take us further to the upside from here. Basically, the model is saying that from its estimation, it makes more sense to be leaning bullish on HBAR than leaning bearish. So with that in mind, let's talk about some possible price targets for HBAR with this local move. That if we do see positive momentum bias continue, as we're seeing here, and if it makes sense to continue to be bullish, where might be some places we might think that the price might go before it hits some resistance? And one, I think, logical level to expect is right around the 6.8 cents to up about the 7.8 cents mark. That has acted as, that general zone has acted as resistance multiple times here already. Would make sense for us to hit that and maybe hit some resistance there. But if we can slice above it, then I think we'd be targeting this prior year-to-date high from back in February, all the way up towards 9, up to around 10 cents up in this general zone. So that's the price chart. But I actually want to say that in some ways, I actually think looking at the market cap chart might be more informative. And why do I think that is? Well, let's just go ahead and look at the way that market cap has gone throughout this whole time. Notice how symmetrical this resistance has been, that from February to April, all the way over here to August of this year, it's been the same general zone that we found resistance. And note how that's different than the price chart. Look, the February price was well above the peak we saw in April and the peak that we saw in August. So what's going on? Why is market cap looking so different from price? Shouldn't those two things go along together pretty closely? Well, it's important to remember that market cap is calculated by multiplying price by circulating supply. And something that's really important to keep in mind with HBAR is that it's had a pretty dramatic increase in its circulating supply over just the past year. So in general, HBAR's circulating supply has grown pretty rapidly over its life. We had a big expansion in circulating supply back in 2021, and then it's been growing steadily, and then we had another big expansion early on this year. And that is the reason why we're seeing this discrepancy between price chart and the circulating supply chart. Because basically, at a lower price, you're now multiplying it by a larger circulating supply, and that then boosts the market cap up to around the same level that we were back here in February. And so in some ways, watching this chart has been much more useful this year than this chart, because we've been hitting resistance at the exact same level. And so I think it makes sense that at the very least, to have this as being our first upside target in this rally we're seeing so far, looking at market cap, not at price, at around the 2.2 billion up to around 2.56 billion mark. But then if we can clear above that level of resistance, this acted as resistance in this top, and this top, then we could actually be targeting a higher level. And I think the next level that would make sense is around the 3.02 to around the 3.37-ish general area that acted as resistance here, support here, before we sliced back down through here. So if we can clear above here, that would be the next level that I would be watching. So I think my overall takeaways with HBAR, looking across what we've talked about, is that certainly it has been a slower mover than other assets in the space. There's just no denying that. And it still hasn't really broken out in the way that you've seen some other assets do. A lot of other assets, when you'll draw these descending resistance lines on the chart, a lot of other assets have cleared above this. HBAR has not done that yet already. But I think it is showing some of the behavior you would want to see to be more optimistic longer term with things like its momentum profile and what the forecast model is saying. And then I think watching the market cap chart might be the most useful when setting targets and expectations for upside. And also just keeping in mind that because circulating supply has gotten so much larger, that it might just be a little bit harder this time around for HBAR to hit the same price levels that it has in the past. Basically, its market cap will have to be significantly higher for it to hit these same prices that it did back here, were to do it again, because we have such a larger circulating supply. So that's just something that's important to keep in mind. All right, if you want to view our models and live data from our models and more, you can go over to our website, claritydigital.io. And then, of course, if you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and follow us on X. A lot of updates, better indicators, and more over there.